Welcome to At the Nurses Station, a podcast for nurses about everything except the patients. Kelly and Sam hosting as usual. We have a special guest today. We're really excited. Our very good friend, Miss Andie, is going to be teaching us a lot of stuff today, actually. But before we get into it, as usual, Kelly, how's life going? We have officially entered the end of summer. How's that feel?
I know. Well, it has been extremely hot, like high 90s, and the smoke is horrible. So that's been like kind of making everyone grumpy, I think. I actually worked the other night and it was very, very weird, like full moon type stuff, but it wasn't a full moon. And I think it's the smoke and the heat is just making people squirrely. But I'm doing okay. I got into a fight with a Walgreens employee this morning.
Oh, great. Okay.
So, and I just finally, that was the last straw with Walgreens. They are now fired. I have moved on with my life and I'm never stepping foot in there again. So we won't be doing any advertisements for Walgreens on this podcast.
Presumably not a fist fight, though. Yes?
No, just they don't know what they're doing. And I've been trying to get an EpiPen for my son for school because he has a bee allergy. And that has been like a 2-week thing. And I've talked to insurance and turns out it's just Walgreens' problem. So they're fired.
Fired. I won't, this would be a great opportunity to say you're fired, but that's probably not the vibe that you want. So I'll refrain from that reference, as it were.
Okay.
Well, we got to work together this last weekend and it was a freaking blast. I had so much fun. That was like a great crew, great patients. We even ran some traumas.
Yeah, it was fun.
Teach some boys how to speak to their moms.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was fun all around. So,
well, Andie will have to tell you about a little moment that I had with her the other day where I let a little 13-year-old child know how he was allowed to behave in the emergency room. It was pretty fun.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's introduce Andie first. So our very good friend, Andie Daisley, is from our area. I wrote up a little thing about you, Andie, and then it says the town that we're from, which we usually don't talk about. So I'm going to very awkwardly skip over that sentence. Sorry. So she works with us in the capacity of a child life specialist, Master of Arts in Child Life, which is amazing. And I didn't know was a thing. She also has a Bachelor's of Arts in Human Services and a minor in Psychology and Sociology, which totally makes sense getting to know her, and is the reason why she's so good at her job. So she's a certified child life specialist at the hospital that we work at, where she supports families and children actually all over the hospital, not just in our department or in the pediatric hospital, but in every unit whenever they need her. She's been with us since 2017, started with an internship and a practicum, 2016, and then volunteered a lot at a children's hospital on the other side of our state as well. So we are so excited that she's given some of her time to us. And so we just want to welcome Miss Andie to our podcast.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
I love it.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I do want to say I'm not completely done with my master's yet, so I don't want to give myself the credit I don't deserve, but I appreciate that credit. And I deserve the credit for being all but my final thesis. So I'm basically, but yeah. Anyway.
What are you doing your final thesis on?
Well, that's part of the problem, Kelly, unfortunately. I'm really passionate about the grief and bereavement support aspect of my role and just any work in that field. So I think it's going to be something around kind of sprucing up, adding to, making additional grief supports either in the hospital that we work for or just researching areas in our town that can come alongside families once they leave the hospital after something unthinkable happens. So something in that vein. But I also started this program in September of 2020, thinking, well, everything's easy peasy in life right now. Why don't I go into a master's program? So then I like did the accelerated stuff for that year. And then it was like, oh, working full time and being a student full time in COVID is too hard, actually. So I just, I'll finish it someday.
No, I hear you. I have started my master's program twice now and have gotten a few months in. I'm like, this was a horrible idea. I'm trying to just step back.
We try.
You're doing great.
I'm never going back to school. No.
Yeah. Hopefully I go back long enough to finish this and then never again. So anyway, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Do you want to just like briefly sort of explain what your role is? I always want to say like in the ER, but I remind myself, you are a resource to our entire hospital. So what do you do?
So I'm a certified child life specialist based in our pediatric emergency department, and our whole team at the hospital where we work, and I think this is the model at most children's hospitals, is really collaborative, and we will, cross cover each other when we need to, and we are supportive of each other in all of our different areas. But I work the swing shift, so I'm 12-hour shifts, and everybody else on my team leaves by about 5 p.m. and then I'm here till 11. So I will take calls throughout the hospital if they need something in peds oncology, PICU, peds general med surge, if there's procedures or things happening. And then we also take referrals on adult units if there's children involved in the lives of critically ill adults. So we facilitate visits because our role as child life specialists is to really help kids and families cope with the hospital environment, is my elevator pitch when I'm actually asked that in the elevator sometimes because they see it on my badge and I have like 2 seconds. My pitch is it's our role to help kids and families cope with this environment. And that means a lot of things, but we really believe in practice that play is the universal language of kids. So we try to let kids play, and we're in the ER, and that's so fast paced. I'm not going to have a chance to do a whole medical play session with a kid before every procedure, but it's just speaking to them at their developmental level and respecting them as the individual people that they are and making sure they're informed about the things that are going to happen. Doing education and preparation for the procedures, diagnosis education and preparation, that grief and bereavement support, and trying to be an advocate and someone who can normalize the hospital environment for a kid who, in theory, is in uncharted territory. But it looks different for everyone, of course. But we're there to help kids and families adjust to and cope with that environment.
Which is almost hard to, I grew up in the hospital environment just because my mom was there. So I was always in and out. Yeah. And to not have a comprehension of the hospital environment is something that doesn't make sense to me because I've never known my life without it. But to know that there are people that really don't understand it, it's so amazing to have a whole team of people working to help, because it is a culture shock. It is a land where sometimes your freedoms are taken away in like a way that you don't understand. You have so much less control, and you don't know your way around. You don't know the different power dynamics and interactions of the staff. And I think that you always do a really lovely job of understanding that, in addition to understanding like what you're talking about, the developmental levels of even adults, because that can vary. In addition to the children, it's really amazing to see those two worlds combine. Yeah.
I do have a question. Yeah. You were talking about the children's hospital. Is that pretty universal throughout like the nation, that child life specialists are mainly employed in children's hospitals, or are there, just general hospitals that employ child life as well?
That's a great question. I think we are in the position where, like some hospitals are, where it's like a children's hospital within a larger medical center, and then there's some standalone children's hospitals too. It's a standard of the American Academy of Pediatrics, like that they've set forth that a children's hospital will employ child life specialists. So anywhere where it is a a specialized children's hospital with pediatric. I would say maybe one of the qualifiers is like a pediatric inpatient unit, because there's plenty of hospitals that will see children come through. Like we have other hospitals in our area that take peds patients in the ER, of course, because that's where they were brought. But I think you're most likely to find child life where it's a specialized children's hospital, or at least within the general medical center. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's also hospitals, especially in more like rural or remote areas, although then you're probably less likely to have special, like, you know, tons of ancillary staff. But yeah, I think anytime it's a specialized pediatric inpatient unit, especially, you can expect to meet child life. And there's some programs that have one person. So, and I mean, we are clinical staff. That's not what I mean. But in one person programs or hospitals where, of course, budgets play a huge part. And if it's not a requirement, it wouldn't be surprising if they don't staff. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Is this where you saw yourself in undergrad, like doing psychology and sociology?
About halfway through my program that I majored in human services, I got a random message from a family friend who worked at the time at the hospital where we now work, and said, "Hey, no pressure, but I think I know what you're meant to do as a career." And I was like, "Oh, lay it on me." And he said, "Have you ever heard of a child life specialist?" And actually I had, because I was a patient at the same hospital where we work when I was 5, and had a surgery because they thought maybe they were seeing like an oncological process. And I had to have a removal of these tumors. Ended up being benign, but it was a whole ordeal, scary process, obviously, for my family and for me. And I worked with child life specialists. Like I remember coloring hospital coloring pages and getting a little stuffed animal that went into the MRI with me. But then I hadn't really thought about it again, because it was like I remembered that person and those people, but it was one of those things where I was 5 years old and it hadn't occurred to me that, like, I wonder what their job was. And so then when he sent me this, it was like, oh, you might be right. But I was deep into my major and there wasn't a child life program at my school. So I graduated and worked in a nonprofit on the other side of the state for about 4.5 years, but this was always kind of nagging at me. So I just eventually was like, I just have to quit my job and move back over and try to get a clinical internship. And so that's what I did.
I don't know that you would be the Andie on our unit if you didn't have a background in like psychology and sociology. It's one of the things I want to touch on later, is how you have become like the unofficial therapist of our unit for staff and like, I think parents alike. It's like, I have something going on in my life. Where's Andie? I need her to tell me how to manage this situation.
So sweet. So I love that. And that's so sweet.
Yeah. So we talk a lot on our podcast about working, like our relationship between staff, specifically nurses. We talk about ancillary staff, in differing terms, depending on who we're talking about. Now, you have this very unique position where, like you said, you're often the only one of you in the hospital, and you work alongside nurses in every place that you go. How is that relationship? Did that take a little while for you to kind of figure out how to be with nurses, how to kind of, because you do a different role, but at the same time, there's no hierarchy there. How'd you kind of get good at what you do in that sense?
Thank you. It does take time. And historically, being in this job has made me, I think some of the people we work with would be shocked to know the person that I was before I started doing this, because I am one of the most conflict averse people that I know, or at least historically. Like, do not want to make waves, do not want to ruffle feathers. That's okay. I don't need to. Whatever you want. And I'm very proud that I don't think of myself that way as much anymore, but this has made me become so much more assertive while still trying to maintain my, obviously, like, compassion and ability to connect with people. Cause I do feel like I can, I love getting to know people and hearing their stories and making relationships and have great working relationships. But it took time to be comfortable to advocate for my own role on behalf of the children that I'm advocating for, because I can be assertive, as it turns out, for the benefit of a child. So that's helped me a lot, because it was really hard at first, especially fresh out of my internship. I did my practicum and internship all at the same hospital where I now work, which isn't, I would say, uncommon, but a lot of people think it's better to do those clinical experiences at other places. And I think that would have had great benefit as well. But one thing that I benefited from doing that was forging some relationships and rapport. Like a lot of the doctors and some of the nurses that we work with, I knew as a practicum student and an intern. So they've really watched me do the whole thing. And I was able to build some trust, because that's the biggest part, is trusting each other. And it's hard. I guess hard is not even the right word, but it takes a little longer when I get called up to the adult ICU, because there's a family full of kids here that nobody was planning for, that are coming to visit their uncle, grandpa, dad, mom, aunt, whoever it is. And the staff sees a bunch of kids and they work in the adult ICU, and kids aren't normally allowed to visit. And so here I am trying to advocate for, I completely understand where the medical team's coming from. This is a lot. This isn't a developmentally appropriate environment for this family, but also they want to say goodbye to their family member. And I'm kind of the go-between, and I've never met any of these staff. So I'm walking in immediately with like, you might know what my role is about, but you might not. And so who am I? Who's this person walking in? Like, I can easily start to put myself in their shoes of, you don't know me. Like, this is your house. This is your zone. You're here to take care of your patients. And that's really a situation that I've been in so many times and still find myself in often enough, that I also have gotten really experienced at building quick rapport.
Yeah. What do you do? Is there like something that you say or a stance that you take? How do you do that with scary adult ICU nurses?
Well, I will also say, to the credit of scary adult ICU nurses, that I am in a great position with them, because they are so happy to see the person coming most of the time, who will take care of the emotional load of the child and family. Okay. So because they're in the thick of it. And some of them also, like, we're not here all night long. So a lot of those adult ICU nurses have also spent years being that compassionate, caring, kind face that help children do this. So I also don't blame them for going, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't need you to come in and tell me how to talk to these kids about doing, So it's just a tender balance. So I just always usually say, like, I'm Andie, I'm here with Child Life. I heard there's kids coming, or I always check in with the nurse first. Like, that is number one to me, is I respect that this is your patient and has been your patient for potentially days and weeks. And what do you know about this family? Anything from your perspective that I should know about this family, and how to best support them, because you know them better than I do. And then they're usually pretty just thankful that there's somebody there that can help with the coping aspect. But I'm introducing myself all the time, and I'm not an extrovert. So I do so much talking, but it's also just a different part of my brain, because when it's not like my social self, really, most of the time, I can be in that space a lot easier. But I've had to get a little thicker skin and stronger backbone to be in this role than I have ever had in my life before.
No. Well, and I'm going to lovingly call you an advocate, because it's a little bit of a, inside joke that we have.
It sure is. So are you, my friend. So are you.
There's been several of us that have received feedback, like in a very in a positive, quote unquote, way of like, you're such an advocate. And I take that as like, well, that means that sometimes I'm a bitch because I stand up for what I think is right. And that's why I'm lovingly saying, I think that, Andie, you are an absolute advocate in the best way possible.
Do I get to sound super thirsty? Do I get to be an advocate too?
Oh, you are for sure an advocate.
100%. Yes.
Like, wait,
by every definition, by the inside joke definition and by the like Webster's definition, for sure. Yes.
Now, Andie, I consider us friends. I think that we're friends. I also,
Absolutely.
do you remember I almost hate to bring this up, but I think that we can laugh about it. Do you remember our first interaction in room 17 years ago?
Okay, I like really kind of hoped you would bring it up because of course I do.
It was so two people who work in, I think, and you brought it up with the adult ICU nurse in both capacities. I came from a place that did not have a specialty like yours. And maybe I'm going into this story defending myself, but I was definitely in the wrong. And I understand that now.
Oh, well, we're coming from your own perspective. So anyway, go on.
Yeah. Oh no. I was very confident in my ability to comfort and take care of children and to manage them, just like you're saying. And I had 3 of my own, and I was going to poke that child again before we reversetted them. And you said no. And I said, screw you. I'm the nurse. I'm going to do it. And you went and got one of our doctors to enter the room, stopped it all. And I think we had a little tete-a-tete outside of the room after that. And you're one of my favorite people to work with after that. And now, after
Sam,
and I so trust you. But once I figured out your role, that was really, you say you're introducing yourself all the time. And I get it for those of us that are horrible at change and might struggle with pride and control. It's hard to give up some of those things, but truly you guys are so valuable, and it's not worth the fight. You're much better at it than I think a nurse can be while she's doing her own, or he doing their own responsibilities. That anyway, I think you guys are invaluable, and it's been such a blessing to have you. But
that is exactly what I love about your role, is that it allows me to do my job.
Yeah.
And completely focus on that job and know that you're taking care of the emotional needs of the child. I don't know how many times I've been in a trauma or in a high stress situation, and I am looking around saying, where is child life? Because I have a parent, next to the bed that is, not coping well because something horrible is happening. And it's amazing to have you guys there. Can you sorry, Sam, do you want to?
I do have one before we move off of that topic. Sorry, because I think we're kind of dancing around a secondary function that your team has, which probably helped me a little bit more. It actually is like a protective. You guys act in many ways as like this level of protection between the staff and the family, I feel like. Now, is that something that is a personality trait of yours, or is that actually part of your role? I know many times you and other child life have really stepped in between like angry or irate parents or non-understanding parents that are trying to come at like the medical staff while we're doing a procedure. And it's just so helpful.
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know that it's almost like it's not in my role, but it's not really something that is spoken of, I guess, a lot, like formally. But and we do talk about this as a child life team. And when I was training and stuff, it is hugely important to me to not put down the rest of the medical staff because I'm the quote fun one. Or people say like, here, this is Andie, you're going to love her. She's the nice one. And that's not a bad thing to say about me. I'm super nice. However, you guys are not. And so I correct that every time. Like if a nurse says something like, I'm the meanie, I'm the one that's going to hurt you, I'm the meanie. I'm like, oh, it might feel that way sometimes, but they're actually also being nice in a very different way because their job is to take care of you and try to figure out how we can help your body. And our team really cares about that. And so and it's important to me because I do feel protective of my coworkers too. I listen to your podcasts about the trauma bonding and stuff like that. And like, you are in the trenches with people. And I also have a unique opportunity and the benefit of, I do procedures with all of you. Like you two have done IVs together. If one of you's like, oh, there's not a tech available, I'm happy to help or whatever. But it's really only in those instances that you two, like as nurses and friends, get to work together in a procedure in a room because you're going to have different assignments. Whereas I have seen every single nurse start IVs hundreds of times, to the point that I even, like, one time I joked with one of our other nurse friends about, like, we were in the room and I said, "You didn't set up that IV cart, did you?" And she was like, "No, somebody else was going to do it." And I was like, "I knew that's not how you would set up your IV carts." I just know the way that everybody works, which I really appreciate. And I don't take that lightly. And I do have such a trusting, let's all be very honest. It's not across the board. Like, not everybody's people, but I have a good working relationship with my coworkers, and that's really important to me. And I'm willing to have hard conversations to get to that space. And therefore, I also do feel protective. And therefore, I also do believe in how these things have to work. And I see families coming at people and try to diffuse, partly because that's also just my personality. I'm such a peacemaker that it's hard for me not to try and get in there and be a mediator and be in defense of one person while acknowledging the feelings of the other. So I'm glad that you feel that way and that is helpful, because it's important to me too, to stand up for the team that I work with while being an advocate for patients and families too, because usually we all want the same thing. So you're not on different teams. You're all on the same team to try and get this kid better, and people's emotions get the best of them for sure. Families, especially. Yeah. But I've kind of taken it on as, an aspect of my job, because that in the relationship and the position that I have between the medical staff and the family, it's kind of intuitive for me to be in that space.
And you're an Enneagram 9, correct?
Oh, I sure am, baby.
Probably with a wing 1.
No, see, I think, I don't know if your wings can change. I feel like they say that your core type never does, but your wings can.
Oh.
So I think now, at least for sure, I'm a wing 8. Like, I'm able to lean more into the challenger aspects of myself. I wish I was more of a wing 1. I have got almost no 1 in me. I've got the, like, sense of justice. Like, this isn't right and we should stand up for it. But I don't have the, like, black and white, and not that everyone who's a 1 is going to be type A and organized, but I'm certainly not that.
Like Sam.
Not that. like some of our great friends, Sam, who, what would we do without you? We love this about you.
Oh, I'm a 1 just all the way down. There's nothing else about me. I'm not fun. I don't challenge. I'm just a 1.
I'm not fun, she says.
Yeah.
You're fun. Hey, you're fun. You're not like doing MTV's Beach House Spring Break, but there's different kinds of fun.
Thank you for that.
Like cleaning your white carpet. I mean, thrilling.
What's more fun than that?
Kill me.
What's more fun than that?
Andie, true or false? Like 3 years ago, you went through the whole department one shift and had us all download an app and all take the Enneagram test.
True. It was probably more like more years ago than that, because it was in one of the COVID times where it was like, there's nobody here. So I was going around like, do you know your Enneagram? Was I making you do this on company time? It's on you. Okay, that's on you. I'm not taking that on.
For sure.
But I did say, I think your life could change for the better if everybody finds out their Enneagram. And selfishly, my life could change for the better too, because that will teach me how to relate to you even better.
Yeah. I keep trying to get all the girlies to do it, and I have to spell the word for them because they ain't never heard of it. And I'm like, I can tell you what you are, but I think we need to have everybody do it again, because it's just. I
love that. I thought that was such fun team building and team bonding, because we got to know each other better.
Do you know what Kelly is? Can you take a shot in the dark?
Well, I think we've talked about it, but trying to remember. Were you 3? No. 2. Wing 3?
No. 1.
Wow.
Yeah,
there were a lot.
I'm the Mother Teresa. For wing 1.
Oh, my word.
How could I forget, Kel? I should have remembered. I don't know who my comparison person would be.
Yeah.
I don't Apparently not Mother Teresa.
Well, let's I'm going to bring it back for just a second.
Okay, yeah.
Because we're going to do an Enneagram episode. Yeah. But I know we all get really excited. But I wanted you to explain the one voice concept because we teach this to all of our new nurses. But I feel like this would benefit anyone that works in a hospital. And honestly, it could work outside of the hospital too. It's just this idea that there is one person speaking in a certain situation.
Oh, I love you for this. Yeah, it is a methodology and ideology that probably most child life specialists, whether they know they're talking about this one specific like branded one voice thing or are just speaking to the benefits of it, will be utilizing. So the idea being that for anyone, like you alluded to, just in life, it's more helpful for anyone, but particularly children and particularly anybody with any sort of sensory processing challenges or, anything that would make sensory overload be particularly difficult. Imagine being in a space where you're already scared and you don't know what's going on, and 5 people are trying to tell you what's going on at the same time. So that's a maybe dramatic example when you first hear it, but it's not a dramatic example when you're in a room with a child that's scared and crying, because any nice person who's decided to devote their lives to working with kids in a hospital setting is going to have the impulse and the compulsion to try to comfort that child. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful quality to have. And when I'm talking to nursing students, which I do on a fairly regular basis, I'll have instructors reach out and say, like, if you want to do one of our academic days, we'll have a discussion about child life. And the example that I give is imagining that you were standing at a big department store where the electronics section has, like 5 or 10 TVs up on the wall. And if they were all on a different channel on full blast playing something, and then you were asked to remember what any one of those TVs was saying at the end of it, it's just too much. Like, it's just sensory overload. Every person might be saying something really good and nice and worthwhile, but it's all going to be missed because it just floods their little nervous systems and they can't attach to any of it. So we generally try to practice that, especially when there is a child life specialist in the room, like for a procedure. I think of myself as being in a bubble with this kid or this kid and their family member or companion that's there with them, because everything that's happening on the outside of that bubble is the reason why I'm here trying to support and distract and give them an alternative focus, because it's a scary or potentially painful stimulus. And so the idea being, if I'm explaining every single step of a procedure, next they're going to tie that big squeezy rubber band on your arm, every single step. But if I say it and the nurse says it, or if I say it and the nurse says it and the tech says it, or the parent is saying it, it's just sensory overload, and they might even miss the information. So, and beyond that, I've also probably built rapport in the pre-education, the procedure preparation that I've gone in to do. And I'm like with the patient going, oh, remember that little bendy straw that you felt? So now the pokey part's out of it and it's only that soft bendy straw like you felt. And we've already been down this road before. And so I'm in a good position. And because I have a lot of education about children's development and assessing on an ongoing, constant basis how they're coping and what they're understanding, I'm just usually the one in the room at that very moment most qualified to help them cope, which doesn't mean that the nurse can't explain the steps of their own IV starts, or that the tech doesn't know every single step of the IV start, or that you're not great with kids and haven't already bonded with the child and they really like you and you could do all of it. None of that is the point of it. It's just that we give them one focused, zeroed in, one voice because I can kind of see what's going on the procedure side. So I know what to tell them is coming next. And then I can go back to play, but I'm constantly assessing which is the right time. I'm going to do this, and I think this kid's going to respond to a countdown, 3, 2, 1, or this kid's not, or this kid's going to want to watch, and this kid's not. And I'm always assessing that. So you mentioned this earlier, Kelly, but it kind of allows the team to focus on their role in the moment, which is a big role of starting a line or any sort of procedure that they've been trained to do. And I take on the responsibility of helping the child to cope and cooperate with that. So that's a really long-winded explanation, but I have to have this conversation a lot, especially with newer staff, where it's like, I'm not saying I'm sick of hearing the sound of your voice, or I don't think other people want to. It could be true, but I'll never say that. But it's not that I don't want to hear you talk. It's not that I don't want to talk to you. It's not that I don't think the kid or the family wants to talk to you. I think they probably do. But first of all, I've been in a room where it's like, is this thing on? Do you hear that I just said that out loud? And it's just a compulsion of like, you're nervous, you're amped up because the child's amped up, and I get that. So then we kind of turn our critical thinking sensors off, and that's not a personal problem. It's just a biological thing that happens sometimes. But then I have to have the uncomfortable conversations of like, just as a reminder, like when we're in a procedure, I'll be the one that explains things to the child, because it's like, I'm going to be doing it anyway. And then the second somebody from the painful or traumatic stimulus section of the procedure says something, like I've seen it happen a million times, our bubble pops. And now they're screaming again because they remembered that this crew over here is doing something scary. And now I have to try and get them back. And it's so much easier if I can establish that rapport and that calm and maintain it than if I have to walk it back.
That is such an amazing visual for me. Like I'm a visual learner. So like to actually picture this bubble around you and the child and then my words popping that bubble. I feel like that's really powerful. I've never thought of it that way, but it's perfect.
Yeah. And I love as you're talking about it, I'm thinking of the times that we've been in these rooms together now that incident was many years ago, and I've learned to just shut up and do my job. And
I hope you're not carrying, like let's in this moment, release it together. It's gone. Okay. But honestly, and I will say some of my best relationships on the unit started clunky. And you have to like overcome something together, and then it makes you even stronger. So I'm glad that happened.
No,
but anyway,
it's great. No, I only bring it up because I can manage it. If it were something that still bothered me, as Kelly knows, I would never say. Like you'll know that I'm mad at you because I'll stop talking to you. That's how you know. Anyway, there are those moments where we've been in situation and you are creating this atmosphere and you are leading, and I can just look up at you like I would look up at Kelly in a trauma or one of my texts in another thing. And I know that you're giving me the go ahead, or you're telling me to wait, or I can look up at you and give you like just a lot of these nonverbal cues, and you understand what I'm saying about the situation as well, which I just like, that's, I think my favorite part of nursing. That's when it feels the best, is when we're in that groove together. And so it's not really like you're trying to say, it's not really handing over control or power of the room. It's really just working together even more efficiently and to all of our skills, which we also talk about a lot on this podcast. So I love the visual of it too. It kind of makes me excited. I'm like, let's go do something. Let's go do something fun.
Yeah,
fun.
Totally.
I'm not going to pop your bubble.
I'm not going to pop a bubble.
And likewise, that's the thing too. You got your bubble going. So now our bubbles can be, we know how to see each other through the bubbles, but let's not pop them.
I know we got our own like Glinda bubble happening, and you know,
Galinda, not
Galinda.
Galinda.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So you've mentioned a number of times. Well, I love that you're talking about grief. I was listening to a couple of podcasts recently about grief that one was about grief and play that just like blew my mind. Esther Perel, if you're interested in her podcast.
Love her.
Yes. But we have talked about trauma bonding. We've also talked about the trauma that as nurses we take home and how we manage kind of working in those really unfortunate areas and and just bearing witness to a lot of horrible things. You are also in those spaces, and part of your job is really just sitting, which I think is just so amazing, just sitting with people. How have you learned to divide that personally and professionally? Do you have mechanisms that you use? Is it just your skin getting thicker, or how do you manage that?
I certainly, in our field, it's something that we talk about a lot because in our training, I think nurses deserve to have it spoken about a lot more. The self-care, I think it's getting better, but in your trainings and in your, to talk about how it's not just about getting a pedicure after a hard work week, like, oh, all better. It is, I do go to therapy. We have scheduled debrief meetings with our child life team. Oh, wow. That the idea of the debrief is what people bring into this space stays in this space, and we can talk about hard cases. We've had some doozy hard cases in the last several months. It never ends. Like I say that, and then it's like the next chunk of months goes by and I'm like, oh, it's been a really hard season. It's just hard in a different way. But we debrief and talk to each other about it a lot. But there is that element of, if you're not in it, you just can't know. Like if you aren't in the thick of it, like you are with your coworkers. But I also, early on, when I sort of recognized, I had an atypically bereavement heavy practicum and internship. And I really think that was all kind of meant to be, because it has become such a passion of mine. And when I think about it, even before I got into child life, like I have always, I don't know, just been someone who can sit in those grief spaces and I wouldn't say comfortable, because it's not comfortable, but it didn't scare me to be close to someone in grief. And I think it's just because I lost my grandma when I was really young, and she was super important to me. And then I've had friends lose family members way too young, and traumatic, unexpected deaths. And so I knew going into this that was going to be a big part of it. And I learned early on and took it upon myself to go to in-depth intensive grief trainings and become a compassionate bereavement care certified provider through this program. Wow. To do these things that would equip me to be someone in that space that can lighten the burden a little bit. But I have said this to nursing students too, and you've maybe heard me say it before. I learned between talking to chaplains here and at this grief support training that I took with one of my personal heroes, Dr. Joanne Cacciatore, is a grief specialist and therapist and researcher. And I studied with her, and she talks about thinking about some sort of vessel. I think of it like a basket, where if we all have a basket of rocks and each rock is like a heavy thing we're carrying, mine belong to me and yours belong to you. But if I'm in an instance with traumatic deaths that we've had in the ER, and here I am in that space with someone, I think of it while we're in this space together, you can put a couple of your rocks in my basket, in my vessel, in my backpack, in my something. I can hold it for you. And maybe you get a little stronger because you were able to hand a few of them to me in that moment. But before we part ways, it's my responsibility, and it's actually an acknowledgement of your grief that it does not belong to me. We talk about empathy as this revered thing, and I don't think it's a bad thing, but empathy actually means living the experience of someone else. But sympathy or compassion is, I see where you're coming from, and I'm actually honoring your experience by acknowledging that does not belong to me. That's not my baby. That was not my grandpa. That was not my sibling who died, who was in an accident, but I can sit in that space with you and carry some of it. And then maybe you're a little bit stronger to pick those rocks back up and go about your day because you've had a little bit of a break, but it doesn't belong to me. And it's actually not me being cold. Ugh, it didn't happen to me, but it's me saying it would be unkind and irresponsible and inappropriate for me to take that on as though it belonged to me, which is much easier said than done. There are some things that I don't feel like I take on like it happened to me, but I certainly take it on like I can't believe that happened to someone, and that's horrifying, and what if it happened to me? And it's hard to separate that. So that's where you need to talk to a professional, and I do, and things like EMDR, like Kelly has referenced before. But it's really important to me to take a moment and remind myself, that was horrendous. And I'm actually honoring this person's experience by not pretending to know what it feels like to be them.
And you're saying you have like these debriefs with your team and then obviously like seeing a therapist. So you don't just do it when it's something that you feel is out of the norm or extra heavy, like maybe actually having it scheduled at a routine basis is something that's probably more helpful. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Totally. I think both. We will call like emergency debriefs sometimes if someone really needs in the moment. Also, my coworkers aren't here a lot of the time that I'm here. So I don't have, and then a lot of times too, like on the unit, I'll come back after like sitting up in PICU with a family who has been through, you know, a near drowning or a horrible event where it's like their child it's very tenuous. We're not sure how this is going to go. But like they've left the trauma room. And so our ER team is, for lack of a better word, done with that now. Yeah. They're not done with it emotionally. And I want to honor that for sure. But that patient has moved on. The trauma room's been cleaned and there's still a unit to run. And here I am, and I come back downstairs and find out that everybody's debriefed about it in the room while I was gone. And I would encourage that because we don't necessarily, like, time stops for no trauma. And so it's like, we got to keep going. But then here I am, and I don't have my coworkers here, but I have people I know that I can call. But the beauty of scheduled debriefs, like just last week we had one, and I went up there about 15 minutes late. I was in an IV start, sit down, everybody's really quiet. And I'm kind of it's not always really heavy, but we're kind of laughing and talking about things. And then someone said something about, well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing with charting and stuff is, you know, you have to know, like in a court of law that you can back what you said. And just them saying in a court of law, my brain instantly, I had this like flash moment because I know there's a case that I'm going to be subpoenaed for. I just know it. And then it reminded me of this child, and I just started weeping in this debrief. And I had not thought about her that whole day. I had not thought about anything having to do with that, but just it unlocked something because I was in this safe space with my coworkers who are equipped to talk about it with me. And so I think that's where the scheduled ones really help, like whether you need it or not, in quotes, because then you just don't know when it's going to hit you. But then we can certainly like, hey, I just had a really tough, can anybody go for a walk? And then we will. But having that time as a team to plan to go over those hard cases, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for us to have something like that in the ER too, you know?
Well, and I want to say that, I want to acknowledge that I see you in like those hard moments. And, like Sam alluded to earlier, we all love you and we love Child Life so much that we do come to you with our own personal problems. And I can only imagine how difficult that can be when you're like dealing with, you know, all of these issues with patients and families. And then you have nurses coming to you. Because you do have this like spirit about you that you want to help. But that's got to be really heavy. And I know that you have reached those points before where you're like, I need to step away for a moment. Do you feel like that's gotten easier over the years? Like recognizing that I'm at my limit, I need to back off?
Yes, for sure. I also, though, absolutely cherish that. Like that really means a lot to me that people feel safe to come to me. And then I have people too on the unit who I know are there to you both are people who have been like, yeah, if you need something, I see you in this and I can come vent or debrief or chat and know that you'll understand me. Like that knowing look you talked about, Sam, in a procedure, that means a lot. It really, because we trust each other and we know each other. We've known each other a long time. And so I also know that I can look across the room. I've had nurses like, we come out of a room and there's like maybe a newer tech or someone who just is not as familiar and they're not doing anything wrong. But I can like come out of a room and just turn around and look at somebody, and the people that I know well are like, oh, do you want to go for a walk? Are you okay? So I have that too. And I truly am someone that's like, you got to see what my dog did yesterday and they want to show me. And that means a lot to me. It really does. I appreciate that I am a safe person to people and I'm happy to talk through things. It means the world to me. It's an honor to me when people ask me questions about their kids. As someone like without my own children,
Me, 100%. I have one weird child, and Andie has been very helpful with him.
That's the best. And it's hard sometimes. Like I get asked all the time, do you have kids? And I say like, oh, none of my own, but I have so many kids in my life and whatever. And I really appreciate when someone respects my knowledge of kids, even though I don't have them. I'm not a mom. And it also kind of gives me a different perspective too. So I love that. But there are times I will be absent from the unit sometimes for a little chunk. And I might be up in the ICU doing memory making in a hard bereavement. But I also might be in the healing garden across the street because I'm like, I have a lot of charting to do, but I know if I sit at my desk right now and chart, I'm going to have 5 people come talk to me about things that aren't about a patient, and that's okay. And normally I'm in the headspace for that, but I do have to take a breather sometimes because I get really overstimulated. I am perpetually overstimulated because I'm having to pay attention to a billion things. And even when I'm quiet in a room, my brain's not turned off. I am paying attention to every single, like I would hear a drip from the faucet because my senses are heightened so extremely so that I can pay attention to what the sibling's doing, the mom is doing. Why is that door open? Why are they changing the linens right now at a time like this? I'm paying attention to everything because I have to, because the kid's going to be able to hear it too. Yeah. And so I do sometimes have to just go, night, night. I'm going to go away for a minute.
Maybe go get a Diet Pepsi and dance in the cafeteria to some, who was it? What was that song?
It was Fireball. I think Pitbull.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we went and got some Diet Pepsi and danced to Fireball in the cafeteria together. And then they turned the music off. And I think it was because of us.
In the middle of the song?
Yeah, well, for whatever reason, that song was positively blaring in the cafeteria when we walked in. It was like, this isn't a very therapeutic environment. However, it's the cafeteria, so that's fine. But we were on our way, like we were punch drunk and needed a Diet Pepsi. And so we were on our way down, and then that really matched the energy we were bringing. And then I do believe it was too much. But
what is he, Mr. 805?
For some people.
Yeah, for some. We were pretty disappointed to lose that song, but we bring it back to life.
I hate to, I have a bunch more questions, and I would love to just keep picking your brain about stuff and asking about these things. And I think that what's really nice is you've given some really actionable advice as well to listeners. Heaven help us, we have some that don't work with us to ways that they can do some of what you're doing in their departments if they aren't like lucky enough to have a child life specialist that could maybe bring a little more peace and order to their patients and their patients' kids, which I think would be amazing. We're going to move into our pulse check section, as we call it, just making sure that we're still alive and we are not just our jobs. So it's a section where we ask some questions back and forth. You're welcome to answer. If you have questions too, you can always throw them in.
I love it.
On the topic of Fireball, which I will say is on my running playlist. So that's a regular song that I do know. What was the first CD that you had, or what CD did you play like on repeat as a teen or preteen?
Andie,
I remember my mom picking me up from school in elementary school. Don't remember how old I was, but she had bought the latest NSYNC CD.
Okay.
But Hanson was mine. Like that's a core CD memory, but Hanson is for sure far and away. Like every home video we have from a chunk of time, I have my Walkman, like Discman with Hanson blaring.
This is why we hit it off eventually.
Yes.
Hanson.
Well, let me tell you, I'm a little bit older than you guys. And
we know.
So one Christmas we got an old stereo, that was like 3 feet tall, but it was like a 5 CD changer.
Oh my gosh.
All of that, right? So I actually got 3 CDs, and I'm not going to swear that they were all at the same time, but I remember them, and you got to get this. Okay. Warren G Regulators.
Ooh.
Never heard of it.
Queen.
There we go.
And the Aladdin soundtrack. Yeah.
Wow, a Renaissance woman. That is an eclectic.
And if that
mix.
doesn't go with my personality, you just don't know me.
That
No,
is about
that
right.
I couldn't have pinpointed a more Kelly CD changer lineup.
I think
Oh
I
my God.
listened to the official soundtrack to Fellowship of the Ring for, I don't know, 18 months. Just no words. Just.
Yeah. Another thing that totally tracks.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's very uncool and unpopular and weird for no good reason at all. So,
You know what? I love Lord of the Rings. So this is again where we have a little golden thread between us all. Here we are.
Okay,
Kelly,
so
Rowan.
if you were a character in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which character would you be?
Somebody that got the golden ticket or literally anybody?
Anyone in the whole movie.
Oh, okay.
Currently, the grandparents who spend all day in bed sounds pretty nice. However, I'd love to go to the chocolate factory. I don't want to be Veruca Salt, but maybe, I don't know. Anyone in the chocolate factory, I would love to see that, but also spending all day in bed. Yep.
I don't know that. I mean, her theme song is I Want It Now. And I don't think that anybody that has known me for a long time could argue that I fit anyone better than that. Yeah.
But I want it now, Daddy.
I want it now.
So I think that's Veruca Salt, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it's not the blueberry girl. What is her?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Violet.
Violet.
Beauregard.
Because you're turning Violet.
You're turning Violet. Yeah, no, I don't remember what she says, but I think, I want the golden egg right frickin' now.
Yeah, I can respect that.
I think I'd be the grandpa. I think I'd be like,
Someone
kind of
with no
encouraging him to get into some shenanigans,
Mm-hmm.
Just, I'm like the cool old person that the kid wants to bring and,
I think that's perfect.
fly around the bubbles.
I think there's a part of every person that has to deal with children too that is Willy Wonka. Whereas I tried to do something nice for you and you didn't follow any of the rules, so forget you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get
That's right. You don't get the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Andie, do you want to throw one at us, or do you want us to keep going?
Well, okay, you keep going and I'll keep thinking.
Okay. Name one legal thing that you would make illegal and one illegal thing that you would make legal.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Well, this is so silly and probably just because I've been there so recently, but the most ridiculous pet peeve that there's no world in which it should be illegal, but when doors open and you're on an elevator and someone standing outside the elevator charges on before the people who need to get off have gotten off. I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. Is it going to be punishable by law? No, but let's do better.
Right.
So it's my own little, I didn't really answer the question, but that drives me crazy.
Get off first, then people can get on.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you feel like should be legalized that is currently illegal?
Oh, Lord.
I think Andie and I would both jump on we could go very political with this train.
Okay.
Sure.
I feel like property taxes are illegal.
Oh.
And so I'd like to, well, they are legal.
Sure.
I was going to say, I pay property taxes.
Yeah, I know. I'm just tired of renting my land.
You'd like to make that illegal. Yeah.
You don't want to be a serf anymore.
No. Yeah. I just bought my house so I can pay rent on it every year. And this is from, never mind. I was going to say something else, but that's fine. Yeah.
I think if I was going to get a real answer to that question, you are getting us off on the right, like trajectory. I'm sure I could come up with something that people charge for that I think should be illegal. But that could also get us very divided on our, down a political rabbit hole too. But I don't like spending my money, so
yeah, me neither.
I could come up with something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay. Do you have one for us, Andie?
I was gonna say it's kind of still ER related, but I was gonna ask you, what is like your favorite, this sounds weird, but like your favorite procedure to do or your favorite scenario to be in while you're working in the ER? Like if this happens during a shift, obviously we don't want these things to happen to someone, but they do happen to someone. So Sam, you mentioned like, I love when I have those moments where I feel like we're just reading each other well and we're in a good flow. What is it that makes it feel like this has been a really good day at work?
So I had one the other day. I think you might have been there, Andie. I love a good freak accident where you truly like see a miracle.
Yeah.
Like that person should be dead.
I was there too.
Totally.
Were you there?
Yeah. I was
Oh,
charting.
okay.
You're so
yeah, we were in the same room.
Was I there?
I don't know. But that is always like when you see something you've never seen before, you do a little internal like,
yes.
And then you are just like, wow, this person was saved for some reason. Because that to me is just like, I feel like kind of like you were saying, like this moment of I am so blessed to be a part of this situation and like witness something that nobody else ever sees.
Oh my gosh,
that's a little like spark inside me.
I like my favorite scenarios are somebody that is like a real big trauma or really sick, just like a half step outside of my normal comfort zone. Like we don't do chest tubes a lot, so that stresses me out. I don't like doing that. But just like something that I actually know that I don't have to think too hard about it. I don't have to get a checklist out or anything, but they're still really sick. It's still slightly chaotic. And I have like all of my team there. And so I never have to devolve into actually being like stressed or anxious. It's just, you are literally just having fun doing what we do best. And that is a friggin' blast. I love it.
Totally. Yeah. Like you have to, nothing ever is autopilot in an ER because you can't rely on anything being autopilot because you don't know what's going to come through. But there are, like I say this to students too. I'm not, before I go in to talk to a kid about an IV start, I'm not going over and over and over in my head. Okay, what are the steps to the IV start again? Right. Like that part's done. And so then it opens me up to like the next macro environment of the room instead of that one little thing. I see what you're saying with that because you're like, this is pushing me just far enough where I maybe have to think a little bit harder to recall the steps because the last time I did it was a long time ago. But that is like what do they call that? Like the zone of something proximal, whatever, growth development. That's exactly what it's called from the
I don't want that much credit.
Something proximal zone development.
You're like prime learning time or whatever. So that just feels so good because you're like, oh, it's been a long time. I remember walking a kid through a cardio version and I'd never seen it before. Not in my practicum, not in my internship. I've been working for like a year and they needed a chemical cardio version. I have no idea what to tell them. What is it going to feel like? Your guess is as good as mine.
Your heart's going to stop and then start again.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah. So we got through it and I was still able to like, okay, well, I know what this IV part is going to, and then we got through it and they coped beautifully and we had a really good thing back and forth. And I was like, oh, well, now I know, but I had no idea going into it. And so it felt good to just be like, at the end of the day, I know how to talk to a kid.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you.
Accomplish something that maybe you didn't think that you were, that you might not have gotten through, but you did. That's
totally. Yeah. Good. That always feels so good.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with having a tapeworm if you didn't know when you contracted it?
I don't think I'd ever be okay with having a tapeworm.
Why?
Is there ever a situation where I would want a tapeworm?
You would be able to eat whatever you want and you would just lose weight.
Oh, well, no. I'm okay with having a few pounds and not having worms in my body.
Just one. It's not multiple.
So, but that's not the only, like you didn't know it was there. I have a feeling it's gonna wreak some other havoc.
No, that's probably true. So
interesting that you thought our answer would be anything other than I don't want a tapeworm. But well, often it's just, would you guys be okay with worms in your body? That's a no.
I mean, usually I only have to disagree with Kelly, so I'm not often outnumbered. It's just her versus me. But,
about a worm? Well,
yeah,
okay. I'd rather not. I'll be honest, Sam. I'd rather not.
Fair enough.
I mean, to each their own. You want to be your own little medical case study.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It just seemed like an option, It's really hot outside. I don't really want to go run around the block, but alas, I also
as
want
an
to
alternative.
I don't want to run, so I'm just going to eat something that has tapeworms in it.
Yeah, see, I just wouldn't, if I just didn't know. I'm not going to eat like a raw piece of pork or something where you get worms from, and I don't want a pinworm. I want just like your friendly calorie eating tapeworm. That's all.
I'm going to eat the calories and I'm still not going to run, and I'm going to say no to the tapeworm.
Absolutely. I am on Team Andie.
All right. Well,
we love you.
Andie, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it. We are at the Nurses Station. We drop a podcast weekly. We'd love for you to check us out on socials, rate us if you're nice about it. Send us a message if you have something not nice to say so we can work on it. And we will save you a seat next time.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey guys, this is Kelly from At the Nurses Station. Sam and I would like to remind you that the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are strictly our own and do not in any way reflect the position of our employers. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and in no way should be considered medical advice. As always, consult a qualified medical provider for questions regarding your health or medical conditions. We hope you had fun listening to us today, and we'll see you next time at the Nurses Station.